Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
Whoa. What is up? I'm Jared Welch. Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, February 1st, and this is Blinkers Off. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Yeah, big show, back-to-back big shows. Of course, Pegasus last weekend, and then the 4 preps this weekend, and it's going to be fun. I mean, there's a lot of big racing going on at these tracks as well, the undercards. So this is it doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, it's I mean, Pegasus obviously last weekend was we said it last week. It always marked for me. It marks kind of the beginning of the quote unquote Derby Trail, and this year with the Southwest being pushed back a week, and you have this mega weekend we have here, and then obviously, I guess the number one Derby horse, right? Especially with all the Bob Baffert horses not running in the race, so now it's like Fierceness makes his return. So it very much feels like the weekend. At least it feels like the opening of the Derby preps, and to me.
No doubt, and I don't think there's any doubt he's number one on the list, talking about Fierceness running this weekend. I mean, now, will he end number one? That's, we'll see as we go down the trail here, but a lot of those horses that were kind of waiting in the wings, you thought, yeah, they look good. Yeah, they could maybe step up to his level. Well, they're not going to be running in it because they're staying in the Bob Baffert barn, So, I mean, right now he's far and away the favorite to win this thing with the news officially that nobody's leaving Baffert's barn. But, well, I'll save it for when we actually talk about the race. But there's some things to say about that race in general. But, yeah, it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see Fierceness back. He's been working out really well, so we'll see what he does.
Yeah. So do we wait? Do you want me to wait? I don't know. Like, I just looking through these fields, it's just like I said. I'm trying to I'm trying to save some for later, but yes, it is the opening of the Derby. I feel like the opening of the Derby races, but it's a big weekend, but it's kind of a joke, just to be blunt. So Fierceness is coming. That's great, but that field is we're not going to learn anything from him in that race. I mean, other than I guess if he doesn't run well, then you're like, well, I mean, if he doesn't win, then you're like, well, that
Yeah.
But any kind of win, you're really not learning much from him. The withers in the Southwest are laughable. I mean, and I don't even want to shit on the races. I think the bigger thing I took from looking at these races is you have one race where none of the horses would get points that very literally could run 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
You have Fierceness and a bunch of nobodies, and then you have that group of. We don't have very many good horses. Where are the 3-year-olds? Because the ones that are good can't get points. Fierceness is Fierceness, and then past that, I get that it's early. We're in February now. But this is not a good bunch as we look at look forward towards the Derby.
Well, I mean, I guess my thing is, look, you look up at Aqueduct. I mean, that's usually what it is until we get to the woods. So I really don't take that serious, right? Oaklawn, the Southwest is too close to the Risen Star and it's too close to the Rebel. You're just not going to choose to run in the Southwest when you could just wait a week or two and run in races that are 50-point races, right?
And it's a tough too because you're right, but you also have an $800 or 800,000 Southwest on the line, and that apparently is not enough to get them versus the 20 to the winner and the 50 in the Risen Star.
Yeah, it's not. I will say this: the Withers it's just bad. Period. Oaklawn, I wouldn't be shocked if one or two of those horses kind of develop. You know what I mean? There's talent in that. I don't think there's big time talent, but there are some decent horses in the race. It's a mess to handicap. It's a total guess. But it's not a great race, but it's not the Withers, I guess is how I would put it, right?
Well, yeah, the Withers is, and you're right. The Withers is the Withers every year, really. I mean, there's
Yeah.
not a lot of like. It's not like a shock to me that the Withers
No.
is not. I think with me for Oaklawn, and I kind of agree and disagree at the same time. The Southwest is the best like betting field.
Sure.
It's a fantastic. Like we're gonna sit here and get picks for it here in a little bit. I have like 0.0 confidence in my pick. I'll just be very blunt about it. I'm because it's just that kind of race. I don't disagree with you because it is Oaklawn and we do have some like good trainers with
Mm-hmm.
in the race. So it's like it wouldn't be completely insane to think one or two of those end up in the Arkansas Derby, let's just say, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and say that like the field itself is like as far as the quality, like who's in it, there might be one or two, but from a
Yeah.
standpoint of right now, the race is a mess, and it's really hard to get excited about any of them right now. Now maybe that'll change after the race, but it also makes you wonder too. It will go. We can wait to kind of go into this detail, but kind of like Fierceness with the field being kind of what it is, like it's kind of hard to take the result and be like, that's a legit horse. You know what I mean? Because the field is kind of a joke in a lot of ways. Like so it could be a little bit of fool's gold depending on what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think with the Holy Bull, everybody just kind of been down there. They saw how Fierceness has been working, and they're like, "Why am I going to go face him in this race? It's not a big enough race really to take a chance." And I think there are some good horses down in Florida. I think some of them are not quite ready for stakes races, like a Born Noble who's running on this card, and I think is the second best 3-year-old on the card. And I think some other ones they're going to go to the Sam F. Davis next week that probably normally would have been in the Holy Bull, but they're just not going to take on Fierceness. So that one's understandable. And look, I mean, when it comes right down to it, the race out in California, what non-Bob Baffert horse out there do you really want to see as a 3-year-old? There isn't one. Like last year, we had Practical Move, and we don't have anything like that out there this year. So I just can't. I don't know what to really say. Like Baffert's going to dominate those races out there, So I don't really know what we can do about that.
I don't know. I mean, we talked about it. You and I did on whatever day that was, Tuesday morning, when we talked about kind of an update of the Derby and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he's going to steal points.
Yeah.
And that's what, I mean, we got we have 20, 30, 36 points, right? For the top 3 finishers of the Robert B. Lewis. Well, all 4 of the races we're going to talk about, but 20 points to the winner, 10 second, 6 third. So let's just say he runs 1, 2, 3. There's 36 points that aren't beginning, and that's a lower end. When it gets higher, when we get to San Felipe and we get to Santa Anita Derby, how many points is he taking?
Yeah. Well, and if he doesn't run 1, 2, 3, he's probably going to run 1, 3, 4, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. I mean, so he's going to take points one way or the other in this one, and yeah, it's a bad situation, but also it's kind of a funny situation. So I'm not real worried about that. As far as that goes, I am excited to kind of see Nisos and see what he does, and see how he runs for sure. But I mean, it is what it is. It's also February, I mean, these are still 20-point races. We haven't gotten to the big ones. We're getting there. Risen Star, Rebel, they're on the horizon, and I think you'll see a lot better.
We'll see. You've got, yeah, I mean, there could be some excitement. I think a lot of the excitement could come from Gulfstream, like you mentioned, with not just Fierceness, but who's on the undercard. And then you got, is it next week, right? Is the Sam F. Davis.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're going to obviously, last year we saw, we typically see I mean, it seems like every year, right? I said last year, but every year Pletcher's got that kind of his Tampa horse or two, which can always turn into something. Obviously, you've got decent horses that he likes to keep separate, so he'll keep one in Gulfstream, one, or as far as like a big one. So could start to learn more from some of these horses. Pletcher's got 1,000 horses. What he does with More Noble will be interesting with Fierceness in the picture as well. Obviously, assuming he's good. what he does with that, and then throw in one or two other ones, because that becomes a little tricky with these trainers as we go down the trail. When they have good ones, is how where they put them, where they
Yep.
place them, because how keep them separate. We saw them, we've seen him go to Fairgrounds, we've seen him go to Gulfstream, Tampa, Oaklawn, you name it. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how Pletcher in particular ships them out.
He'll be able to do it, and he'll do it right. And we know that because he is the best trainer out there at getting horses to the Derby. He has gotten some bad ones to the Derby, and there's an art to it, and it's because he really spots them well and he sets them up well. And he look like a horse like Born Noble. If he's good enough, he'll get him to the Derby. I promise you. Even the Speakeasy, if that horse is good enough, Pletcher will get him there. He'll find a way to do it. So he's got a bunch. He's getting them set up for those big races right now. But listen, none of them have shown what Fierceness has shown. So he's the man right now.
Well, you said it. Well, we said it a lot, but it's just there's a reason why his numbers are so poor in the Kentucky Derby. Mm-hmm. Because he has so many runners that he can get to the Kentucky Derby, and you said it the other day, that probably don't deserve to be in the Kentucky Derby. But no. He found a way to get them to the race. And what do you want as an owner, as anybody associated with the horse? You want to get a horse into the Kentucky Derby. You give it to Todd Pletcher. He'll get him there. Now, their chances of winning, I mean, as we know, are slim based on, but when you look at the numbers, the sheer numbers, I mean, him having 4 or 5 horses in a Derby every year it's not crazy to think, right? It never fails. There's always you get to March and you're like, he's going to get that horse to the Derby. He shouldn't, but that horse is going to get the Derby.
I mean, you even take a horse like Emmanuel. Now they opted not to run in it, but by the time they drew the Derby, Emmanuel could have gotten in the race. So that's the example right there. He was a turf horse. Again, the owner said, no, we're not going to do it, but he got him qualified. He could have done it. And so that just shows you. So if you own Born Noble or Speakeasy or, just keep on going down the line, Tuscan Sky, these horses, it's they're kind of way under the radar still as far as, earning points or even pointing towards points races at this time. Just be patient. He'll get them set up to run big races in those 50 and 100-point races. And you can rely on him to place the talent where it needs to be based on. I think he's a great handicapper and knowing, okay, horse X is here. I've got horse Y that can go beat that one, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have to send my best. I can send my second best and we can win that one. And then I can do this and this. He's a master at that. People slam his Derby record, and again, it's a lot of it is he's ran a lot of horses that shouldn't be there because he's so damn good at getting them there.
Yeah, you might talk to Kelly. Rob says you should have put Husker Butch in the Pletcher barn. You probably could have got him to the Derby. You never know.
Don't think he would have taken him. That would have been a no.
That, or as soon as you saw the trainer fees, you'd be like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, we probably could have afforded him because he would have won more, but Pletcher wouldn't have taken him.
He would have lasted one race with that, probably. So
yeah, those big trainers, when they get horses like Husker Butch, they don't stay in the barn very long because at each stall, that's money to those guys. They're not dicking around, and if they have a horse taking up a stall that's not making any money, they're gone. So no way Husker would last in the Pletcher barn.
Husker's he should be very thankful where he's at.
Yeah, he's happy. So, all
right, what do you say? Let's get to some races this weekend. We're going to preview and get picks for 4 Kentucky Derby prep races this weekend, including the $250,000 Holy Bull at Gulfstream Park, the $200,000 Robert B. Lewis at Santa Anita, the Southwest, the $800,000 Southwest, just insane, at Oaklawn Park, and the $250,000 Withers. That's right, the Withers. We're not going to forget you, Withers. At Aqueduct, let's go. I guess we got to talk about the Withers, I guess.
So.
I'd rather talk about the snappers putting balls in tight holes in that race. But what you guys go over today on Dudes Who Bet?
We talked about the Baffert situation. We reviewed the 2 football games, and then I got Papa Dude's picks on the 4 prep races. I didn't say much because had this show coming up, but we kind of got his thoughts on them.
There you go, guys. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Of
course, kind of was just like, well, there's 2 really easy ones and 2 really hard ones, and I'll probably get the 2 easy ones right, and the 2 hard ones I'll be way wrong. It's like, okay, well, let's end the show now.
And it's like you don't have to say anymore because we know exactly which races you're referring to. So
yeah. He goes, well, you want to talk about the 2 easy ones or the 2 hard ones first? I said, I'll do the easy ones, and I didn't even ask him. I was just put up Florida Derby, put up the Robert B. Lewis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, we can't get them all,
No.
All right, Gulfstream Park on Saturday, race number 12. It's the last race on the card. It's the Holy Bull Stakes, grade 3, with $250K going to mile 16th for 3-year-olds, of course. Field of 8 shows up for this one, and again, this is the last race of the card in which we covered the whole card in our betting Bible. So if you went to the betting Bible last week for the Pegasus, you came out with money. Halterman just went nuts. I tread water. I had a nice win on Warm Heart as well as you did. But we both made money on the day. So if you followed us in the Pegasus, you made money. So you have money to go get the betting Bible for this weekend, which is going to cover this race, the Holy Bull, as well as the whole card at Gulfstream Park. But then, it's like, well, we got 3 other preps. So we'll have analysis for those 3 races, which we'll talk about more here. But if you want to know exactly how we're going to bet or maybe not bet, all the Derby preps on this weekend, make sure you go get the betting Bible, all included in that Holy Bull betting Bible at racingdudes.com. All right. Well, I say all that to say, well, we got 3 to 5 on Fierceness in the Holy Bull. Of course, is your juvenile winner, is your 2-year-old champion. Fierceness, Fletcher, Johnny V. I mean, I don't see a lot of scenarios here that he gets beat.
No, not at all. And before I talk about this race, I do want to mention just one thing about the Pegasus and the betting Bible. Warm Heart was not probably the most surprising odds in my history of horse racing. Do you realize she paid double what I thought she would pay? I've never said that. We've said that time when we got 5-2 on Nick's Go. I mean, we joke about that he probably should have been about 8 to 5 and he was 5-2. This horse probably should have been 4 to 5 and she was almost 5-2. So I just wanted to mention that it was absolutely the most shocking odds I've ever gotten on a horse, and was very happy to get them. But anyway, I don't know if you want to comment or not, but
it was I mean, we talked about it on the show. We kind of predicted last week, and yeah, we were both at 4 to 5, 3 to 5, somewhere in that ballpark, and to think that, I don't even know, did she ultimately go she was second choice though, right?
Oh, absolutely. A far away second choice. She was 1 tick of the tote board from 5-2. She paid $6.80. So she was not close to the favorite.
At what point, I was watching it, but kind of on my phone. I wasn't really able to focus because I was at Chuck E. Cheese at a birthday party. But you guys, watching it live, really the lead up going into it. I know from experience, of course, not that magnitude, but when you do have a horse that you like that's a little bit dead on the board, at what point are you, because, this is a huge bet, huge opinion. At what point are you like, am I missing something here? Should I be worried? Should I not make this bet? Did that start to creep in?
Yes, because it was so odd. So here's the deal. If she's 7 to 5 or 8 to 5, it's not that odd.
Yeah.
But she opened at 2 to 1 and she never moved. And then at one point it got to 8 to 5, 9 to 5. And I said, okay, it's going to creep. We're not going to get as slow as I thought, but it's going to be 7 to 5, 3 to 2. And then she started going up again. And everybody was like, oh no, she's not the favorite in the pick 3. She's not the favorite in this, that, the double, whatever. And so we just kept thinking, look, this was our strongest opinion on the day, and it's not even close. And you can tell by the way we structure our wagers. So it's like, we're rolling with it. And there's nothing here that we're not seeing. Like we study this just as, hard as anybody. We got the data that everybody's got. Everybody loved integration and everybody really had doubts. So it really worked out. It was quite the gift. But anyway, let's go to the whole.
So hey, to round that out for you, what you're saying is we can expect to get a somewhere similar price on Fierceness on Saturday, right?
No. But honestly and truly, I would equate her odds with my confidence level to getting like even money on Fierceness this weekend. You look up and you go, what? He's even money? Like that would be insane, right? Because I think everybody thinks 1 to 5 is probably where he's going to be here. So to look at it, I don't really know what to say about this race. He is way better than everybody in the field. He's ran 2 races that are that kind of his maiden win towers over the field, right? So, I mean, the only play against him is, hey, I don't think he's going to show up. And Jared, I don't have the crystal ball to know when a horse isn't going to show up. I just have to look at it and go, okay, who's the best horse? Well, that took 1 second. It's Fierceness. Okay, let's go kind of, how's he doing? Well, he's working like crazy good works. Like, is he going a distance that he can't handle? No. I mean, does he have a bad post? No. Is he pace compromised? The opposite. Like he could control the pace. It's just one of those things. If he loses, it just means he flat ass did not show up. And I don't predict that he's going to do that. So he seems almost too easy for me.
I mean, yeah, just think like as good as Otello has looked, his high buyer is an 80. I mean, that was on debut. He got a 76. So he's, by the numbers wise, he regressed in his next start, which is one thing I don't take a lot into. I look at all numbers, but I don't take a lot. But the one thing I do take into those is especially these young horses. And when a horse isn't, like from a numbers perspective, didn't progress much in one race after another. Now, it doesn't mean that they're a bad horse, but you like to see, in my opinion, that, okay, they debuted at 72. The next race was an 81 or 82. The next race was an 88. You know what I mean? Like that, just slight progression. So that's one factor. But forget that. 80 and 76. Fierceness is a 95 and a 105 on his two flashy races. Now, of course, he still ran a 59. He got beat by 20 lengths. He ran a 59. So basically, still, my point is, it's going to take him to. It's going to really take a race like that Champagne for him to get beat here. Any sort of resemblance, and I mean like 70% of the maiden or the last race, he wins for fun. I just don't see really a situation. I think he's light years better. And I don't know how it's hard. Even if you play the Fierceness over Otello, which I think is the most logical exacta here, I don't know it pays anything really. I mean, what's it pay? Like $3, $4? I mean, I guess you play it cold and you just hammer it.
I mean, if the Fierceness Otello exacta pays $3 for $1 or $4 for $1, I'll take it. Like, because I do think Otello is very logical to come in second. I just kind of look at it as Fierceness is going to go to the front. Whoever else is out there is probably going to get their heart broken a little bit. And then I just think Otello will just kind of run up and kind of pick up the pieces. I like Otello. I think he's a pretty good horse. I don't think he's in Fierceness category, but I do think, if it was a situation where there was just like a ton of speed and maybe they were going a distance that was a little questionable, you might really kind of think of Otello here, but those are just the factors really set up against him in this race. Like, I don't see a lot of speed, and I don't think he'll get a better trip than Fierceness. I mean, to me, him to win would be very surprising.
All right, so let's play this game because Shoddy says she doesn't hate Hades or Sea Streak. Hades, the one horse at 6-1. Paco gets them out. Has really never been touched. Ran won by 8. Got an 84 buyer on the last race. Went kind of gate to wire in going 7 furlongs. And then for the 8, Sea Streak, Sea Wizard Sea Wizard horse out of the Silver Deputy Mare. But no, this is a horse that ran 3rd in the Mucho Macho Man last out to Otello, who's in here, and First World War, who got 2nd. Maiden special weight was decent. The debut was really Bookham Dano beat this horse, but it was a pretty good race. That's kind of the, I guess, claim to fame, so to speak. Sea Streak is 20-1. I guess a bigger question is, do you start at what point are you like, okay, well, Fierceness is Fierceness, whatever. And you kind of say, well, some of these horses probably think the same thing. Hey, I can get 10 points for 2nd in this race. So I think a lot of these horses, because Fierceness has that tactical speed, right? You don't want to really tangle with him. So a horse like Sea Streak, if that's who you like, I mean, I guess you want to get. I guess my point is, do you want to try to get creative and not play Otello in 2nd, but play some of these other ones in 2nd?
I don't have a lot of interest in Sea Streak. Look, Hades, I think makes a little bit of sense. I wouldn't hate playing that horse underneath. I mean, that's obviously a logical horse that can run up and maybe hit the board. Sea Streak, not for me. I think Domestic Product is one you might want to take a long look at. Maybe he can, kind of run up, hit the board. He wasn't good in the Rimson, but I think they're taking blinkers off. Maybe that's going to help. It's kind of take your pick. Like, you take Fierceness out of the race and you handicap this for what it is.
Ugh.
It's basically an allowance field. I mean, or maybe it's the Mucho Macho Man again, because that's basically what it is. You can kind of make a case for any of them, I guess, is where I'm going. If you want to go against Fierceness, or you're looking for that underneath horse, you can throw out any name, and I'll just probably say, yeah, I got a shot, because they all are pretty similar after the favorite.
Yeah. All right. Well, make sure the betting Bible, by the way, is should be out by either, if you're a night owl like myself, late tonight or tomorrow morning. So then you can kind of get an idea of kind of what Halterman and I settled on as far as how you want to play this race and what horse we do like underneath. But I do think no matter what you play, you have to get aggressive with it, and I don't mean that by saying we got to play $5,000, $10,000 to win on Fierceness. What I mean is you need to play whatever amount you're comfortable with, but straight. Don't mess with Fierceness over 3 other horses, or Fierceness over even 2. I frankly think, make your opinion. If it's Hades, if it's Sea Streak, if it's Otello, whoever you like, start looking at those wheel pays when the race when we're 5-10 minutes to post. Look at the probables for those exactas with the 7 over blank, and that way you can get a good feel for it. If Otello's 3-1 and Sea Streak is 15-1, maybe you're like, well, I'll play $10-20 on that with the 8 or whatever it is. But look at your values there, and that to me is the way you play this race.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. If you look down and Fierceness is in any of your bets, play it straight. If you look down and he's not, you can box it. It's pretty easy. That's really all I could say to you. There's just no way you can play Fierceness and get like creative and use a bunch of horses. You just can't. So, and look, I mean, if you're going to go against him, to me, it's the equivalent of going and get a lottery ticket and just praying something comes in. I mean, because that's what you're doing. There isn't an angle where he loses. There's not. You're just hoping he doesn't show up. And the one good news, if you're going to go that route, is he has a race where he didn't show up. So you're just hoping that happens again. And I totally get it if you want to do that. That's just not what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and I guess we'll at least put it out there, right? I'll at least throw it into the universe. Dancing Groom beat him that day. I'm just saying, Dancing Groom beat him that day. He's in the race. Can Dancing Groom do it again?
I mean,
I don't know, but Dancing Groom finished ahead of Fierceness in his
Yeah.
lifetime. How about that? So
you could have finished ahead of him. I mean, he didn't run, and again, if you want to do that, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying there isn't any kind of indication he's not going to show up other than he did do it once, right? But he might. It's racing, and I'm done being shocked with horse racing results. That much I can tell you. I will not be shocked if he loses because I've seen it happen. I've got enough experience now to know any of them could lose at any time.
You look at that, how good that main special weight was, by the way, from Fierceness. I mean, not him visually, obviously, good number, but like Air Defiance, Belil, like these comeback winners that looked good.
Oh yeah,
and he just, I mean, he is at his peak. Well, as we've seen, he's elite.
Well,
right?
Dude, he beat the hell out of Muth. Muth came back. He looked great in his last race. I thought that wasn't even really what Muth wants to do. He looked fantastic in that race. And he
kind of looked great in the Breeders' Cup, dude.
He did. He ran a very good race. I mean, and people like, oh, I love Locked. He killed. I mean, Locked never saw him. He was so far behind for most of that race. And that's not a knock on Locked. It's just like he's in a different atmosphere if he runs the race that he's capable of running.
Yeah, and as I said before, I still, even though he's, I would like to have seen someone in here where at least gives me like if I'm like, well, if he doesn't show up, this horse I feel like could be the one to beat him, and but there's not one in here. So, but I still think like in the back of your mind, you still, and you've mentioned it many times, and it's still in my mind. It's like you still think of that Champagne.
Yeah.
So you just need to see that one race, one more that return race where you're like, okay, kind of wash that out, where you're like, kind of, okay, forget that. I don't know what that was. It was a track or whatever. He didn't like it. You also wonder, you look at the maiden special weight. You look at the Breeders' Cup, which, I mean, he was pretty much on the lead the whole way around. If he gets in, and not saying there's one in this race, but maybe down the line, maybe he doesn't have a lot of heart, maybe he's one of those, if he doesn't get the lead or doesn't go his way, he kind of packs it in, right? But it's not like we've not seen that before from good horses. So not here. I don't think we're going to have an issue with it, but as we go down the line, you get a horse that's kind of freaky speed wise, could be interesting. So, all right. This race, we're both on Fierceness to win, obviously, and this was easy, right? 0.5 is the over/under for the Kentucky Derby. I mean, if I go one, I mean, I go 1.5. I mean, obviously, it's under. I don't know. It seems like an easy one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Otello might sneak in there, but I would go over and go 0.5 go over. Yep.
0.5 over, 1.5 under, right?
Under. Yep.
So
yep.
There you go, Fierceness. And real quick before, to anybody playing the multis and stuff, which obviously is going to be included into the betting Bible, so make sure you get it for that as well. But I mean, is there any strategy other than just like he's a free square, forget it, move on?
Oh, you do one of two things. He's a single, or you leave him off, and you can play. I mean, literally as many as you want if you leave him off. What you do not do. Please, I'm begging you.
Listen, now everybody stop what you're doing. Listen to what he's about to say.
Please don't go 4 deep and use Fierceness. Don't do that. Don't go 3 deep and use Fierceness. If you are going to use him, he's a single. Move on. That's just how you do it. I mean, you either leave him off and you can go as deep as you want, or you single him.
And it might sound like some people might sound that, well, obviously, but there's a lot of people that, and not bashing them, like that wouldn't understand that. It's like, well, I want to use him, obviously, but I also, just in case he gets beat, I want to use whatever, and it's like, no, at some point in this game, in your betting, you have to make a decision,
Well, I mean, when it comes to a horse like that, that's your options. I mean, if you do something different, it's not the correct way to do it. It's just not, and that's not my opinion. That's mathematics. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, go ahead. I'm really not the guy that sits and tells you, how to wager your money. Like, it's your money, you do what you want. But mathematically speaking, you single or you leave him completely off, and in that case, you can do what you want.
All right, let's head on over to, I guess we'll go across the country here to California. Let's go to the Bobby B. Lewis, the Robert B. Lewis Stakes, Grade 3, worth $200K, going 1 mile for 3-year-olds. Again, I guess we have a little bit of a situation here. It is the Kentucky, by the way, the Holy Bull 2010 642. All these are 2010 642, except for this one because, well, I guess it is technically, but we have a bunch of Bob Baffert horses in the race who can't earn points for the race. So you got 3 Bob Bafferts out of the 9. Nisos, however you want to say it, 4 to 5 favorite. Very clear, very fierceness-like as far as the favorite goes. I guess the only caveat to this one that's different than the Holy Bull is that you do at the very least have, I mean, there's other Bafferts, right, that are hyped. At one point at least were hyped. And I guess if you're trying to beat Nisos, there is a way, or at least there's horses that you might want to use. But from the big picture, you do have a situation here that these horses are going to release, or someone's earning points at this rate, or at least going to get points that would have gotten points. It's not going to, because they're trained by Bob Baffert.
Yeah, I mean, for me in this one, I think this is the absolute perfect distance for Nisos. And that's not me saying I don't think he can get a mile and an eighth. I think we'll find that out. And some horses that are really good milers, when they stretch them out to a mile and an eighth, they're fine. I mean, they can do it. Maybe it's not like their optimum distance, but they still can win and look impressive. For Nisos, though, I think a mile at Santa Anita, I think it's going to take a really, really good horse to beat him. Guess what? I don't think there's a really, really good horse in this race. So these are the 2 boring ones we're going to start with, but I'm just not the type of guy to sit here and like make things up that I don't see just because I want to like play a big price. Like I just play what is in front of me. And to me, Nisos looks very likely to win this race.
This is a horse that debuted at Santa Anita. It's going 6 furlongs, won by 10.5. Next race, ran at Del Mar in the Bob Hope, won by 8 3/4. It's never been tested, never been any issues. 96 and 97 buyers. Like I said, he's not Fierceness yet, but he's there, right? I mean, he's that kind of horse, at least is what he looks like. Now, this is the next test, but the biggest testers are other Bob Baffert horses, right? And so it's just and you look at the numbers and you look at the horses, and I mean, Coach Prime didn't even win last time out. Now we'll go to him, I guess, a little bit here, because I thought when you text me and said he was in and Imagination was out, as far as this race, I was a little surprised, because I thought Coach Prime was, I don't know where we'd see him next, and Imagination seemed like a lock to run in this race. So interesting to see what that movement means. But the fact that Coach Prime's, do you take any stock into that, as far as like, okay, well, Niso's obviously, like, we don't need to talk, like, we know what he is, or at least you look at him and it's like, but he decided to run Coach Prime in here instead of, is that a trainer, or an owner type thing? Is it maybe he's doing better than he expected? Like, do you put any kind of stock into that?
No, not really. I just kind of handicap them and go from there. I think it's hard to read those situations sometimes. Who's saying what? Who wants to do what? The bottom line is, like, we can kind of guess, but we don't really know, what's going on with that, unless we happen to actually know the owner or the trainer, which does happen, I guess, every once in a while. But in this case, we don't know the situation. But look, I don't think Baffert enters horses when they're not going to run very well. Usually when he enters them, they're fit and ready to go. So look, I kind of like Coach Prime in second here. I went back and looked at the Los Al race, and boy, what a strange race. And I really don't think any of those horses were that good in the Los Alamitos Futurity, including the one I own in the fantasy team we'll talk about in a minute, who I don't think he's great. He fought, though. And But anyway, you look at Coach Prime. He did have to go wide that day. I think a good horse would have won the race, though. Still, but look, I think Coach Prime can get up for second in this spot. I think he's gonna kind of just take back, try to make one run, and pass the rest of them, and maybe not Nisos.
Yeah, I mean, you look at I don't know, I think he certainly is the second. I mean, I guess Wind Me Up is interesting, but I think he's the second best horse in the race, Coach Prime, but I do think the margin's fairly wide between. I mean, you look at the debut or the main special weight breakers for the two of them. Coach Prime started on turf, which is just bizarre. But you got a 75 buyer on his, and he won by 7.25. Looked awesome. Coach Prime, that is. Pratt also rode Coach Prime. I think that's as important as well, considering Coach Prime. I mean, considering Pratt is on Nisos, who he also rode last out. So pretty much, I mean, not that you needed any evidence for it.
I was going to say there wasn't any debate, I don't think, in that room. But
it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear, right? But he got it. But on debut, 96 buyer for Nisos versus the 75. He literally beat him by 20 points. I think they're literally different atmospheres when it compares to those two. But someone's got to finish second. I mean, it might as well be Coach Prime, right?
Yeah, I think Coach Prime's, this is weird to say, but I think if Coach Prime was named Scat Cat or something like that, he wouldn't get as much attention that he does. Coach Prime is such a cool name, and he did win really flashy, and it's just kind of he gets a lot of attention because of the name. I really believe that. So, I still, at the end of the day, my job is to handicap, and I thought he would win the Los Alamitos Futurity, and he didn't, and that was disappointing, but I don't think he was awful, so I don't know. But yeah, speaking of Scat Cat, what about Scatify? That was the other one, the non-Baffert horse. I kind of like him. He broke his maiden at Los Al against some pretty expensive horses there in a maiden special weight. So maybe Scatify is kind of ready to take that jump. Obviously very well bred. Maybe he's the one that gets up and gets second, or I don't know if he'll scare Nisos, but maybe he'll be around,
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate him either. I thought that debut was nice. My concern with him a little bit is the situation of, he drew outside and he does have a little bit of speed. He doesn't need to be on it, but he's going to be up there forwardly placed. And you've got several speed horses in here that's certainly trained by Bob Baffert. I just think there might be a little bit of he might have it up against him a little bit on that, from that regard. Yeah. I don't know if you're talking about the horse that's not trained by Bob Baffert, because I'll be honest with you, I have 4 horses, in our top 4 in the Bible. 3 of them are trained by Bob Baffert. The one that's not is the 3 Better Than Gold. That's, to me, that was the one where I was like, and more than anything, it was like, okay, scratch out the debut, which, by the way, I mean, looks worse than it was because who he got beat by. Nisos is who got beat by. But the next race, he beat Imagination, who obviously came back to, we thought would run in this race. But he also is like a horse that's not going to be compromised on the front end. So if you're looking for a horse that's this gets kind of weird, Nisos just runs them off the, and then all these other ones are just kind of coming, to me, Better Than Gold could be the horse that kind of picks him up. Because Mike Smith is probably going to know, hey, Mandel, we're not trying to win this thing, right? We're going to just get the horse and get him a good trip, and let's get up there for second.
Makes sense. I mean, that's as good a logic as any to get that second place horse. I think that does make sense. He's okay. I've watched his replays back. He's not bad, and I think you could say kind of like the 7 Stronghold, kind of the same thing. He's not too bad. He might be able to do it too. You can, again, this is so similar to the race in Florida. Only I think these horses, these kind of also ran types, are a little bit better, but you can really make a case for all of them when it comes to second and third.
Well, that's just it. And to that regard, it's very much different because I feel like, with, at least in my opinion, I have a pretty good, it could be wrong, but I really like one horse, underneath Fierceness in the other one.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay with playing it, but in this case, I'm having a hard time being like, okay, clearly I want 6 on top, but who am I putting second? You know, I could make a case for, like, I have 3 horses in my top, or underneath Nisos, and all 3 of them I basically was just like, well, I'll put him here. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have a very strong opinion to who would finish second to him.
Yep. No, I agree. I don't think Nisos is going to be bet quite as hard as Fierceness. I really don't. So you might be able to play Nisos over 2 horses in this one and get away with it. You're not going to be able to do it in the other one. I think you're going to be able to do it in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see what the Bob Bafferts, like, those are paying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there might be a situation here where you could look at it and say, okay, I can play both of them. Play that, and you don't even have to do it that way. You can ladder it, like I like to do, where you can be like, all right, I'm playing 6 over 1 for $20, and I'm playing the 6 over the 5 for 15, or whatever it is. Because you look at the calculations, like, well, if this one wins, it makes $50. If this result happens, it makes 70 or whatever. So it's a good way to kind of, like, you're not going to high end it very high, but you can get a pretty good gauge. Like, okay, this is what it would pay. So that would be maybe something you could do. Seems like, knock on wood, easy money, but
right.
Like you say, it's horse racing. But all right, yeah. So this one is gotta be 0.5 and under, because who? I mean, by the way, we're both picking Nisos to win this race, but because they're not getting any points.
Yep.
And even if you run well, if you're better than Gold or you're scatified, you run really well, big whoop, you got 10 points max probably. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's under.
Under, totally. I don't
think anything comes from this race, unfortunately, because you look at it on paper, you say, well, shit, there's at least probably 2 in here that could definitely make a case for getting into the Derby.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't, I mean, because surely Bob Baffert could get Wind Me Up or Coach Prime into the Derby, in a normal year.
100%. Yep.
And so it's like, well, I guess we just, get used to it, I guess, because that's what it's going to be like all year, where you got these horses running these races, and you're just like, well,
yep,
it's a good race to bet. I like this horse to win, but it means nothing to the Derby.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Let's see here. Now, how about we get to a race that we can actually talk about in terms of points, because we're all getting points. Let's go to Oaklawn Park for the easiest race of the 4. Race number 11 on Saturday, the Southwest Stakes, Grade 3, worth $800,000 for going to mile 16 for 3-year-olds. Field of 12 lines up here. Again, 20 points to the winner, 2010, 642. All of them can get points, except for one, I guess. So Weinstock, your Bob Baffert entry can't get points, but everyone else can get points in the race. 4-1 at Weinstock. I mean, look at the dude. This is a race that is just, and we talked about it a little bit in the opening. I mean, Awesome Road, who I thought could be dead, is 8-1 in the race. So I mean, it kind of tells you about the race in a nutshell.
It's just a disaster. It really is. And what a handicapping puzzle. I mean, is the only way I could put it.
This isn't even a puzzle. It is a puzzle, but it's like you lost like half the pieces. It's like a super old puzzle, and the pieces are just gone. And you've got other pieces of the other puzzles within it, and you're just like, I don't even know where to start.
If you like Googled, hey Google, throw 12 random mediocre to above average ranged type 3-year-olds in a race and just randomly throw them together, this is what it would spit out for you. It's a mess. And look, I will come into the race saying, I think number 7, Carbone, I think he's the most talented horse in the race. He's got a lot of questions. And how far does he truly want to go? We're not sure. He did win going 2 turns pretty impressively last time out. feel good about that. But this race looks to have a ton of speed, and I'm just afraid if he really truly doesn't want to go 2 turns and they get a lot of speed up front with him, he may get embarrassed in this race, and therefore I would get embarrassed for picking him to win, right? So I kind of defaulted. I said, hey, I think Carbone's the best horse. I'm going to pick him. We'll see what happens with him. His stablemate there, Otto the Conqueror, man, I kind of wanted to pick him, but I just keep going back to that Remington Park Springboard Mile. And that was when I was in Vegas with Ryan and Paul and John. We all watched that race, and when we watched it live, we thought that was exciting, man. It was a 2-horse battle, and they kind of went at it. And then like that next morning, I see the guys. I was like, I rewatched that, and those horses behind them were gaining on them something fierce. And I know it's not because those horses behind them kicked it into another gear. They were stopping up front. And then you look at the speed figure, and it's like, yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense. So when they were turning for home, we were kind of looking at each other like, I think Otto the Conqueror, he may like really put on an impressive show. And then he just kind of hung. So I didn't go with him. I don't really think Winstock's that great. Now let's get really bizarre. I almost picked Just Steel to win the race for the coach. I mean, I think it's going to set up great for him. But at the end of the day, I think Carbone is the best horse in the race. So I went number 7, Carbone.
He's ran 2 good races. The last 2 races from Just Steel have been really good. I mean, he won one of them and got a nice number from it. Got second in the last one to Catching Freedom and the Smarty Jones. It's almost like the reset button on him a little bit with, not throwing him right from the main special weight to the hopeful. It's like, oh, who would have imagined that, actually taking it slow with him might work. But yeah, he definitely looks like a different horse. I like him a lot underneath in this race. Because he's like, oh, that horse, it's like, oh, who got second? Of course, it was D-Wayne, who came, running up for, late in the race. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you with Carbone. That's who I defaulted on, and I kind of hate it, honestly, because it's 9-2. But at the same time, it's like he might just kind of run a lap around this thing and not, just kind of like, because he's just faster than everybody else, better than everybody else. He is going from the mile to mile 16 to, son of Matoli. Never really know how far Matoli horses want to go, but I don't, especially at Oaklawn, I don't necessarily believe the mile 16th is going to be too much for him off that mile. If you're going past that, if he wins here, you're going past that, you might start to get concerned a little bit. But for him here, I'm not. From when you look at the races, like on paper, from everybody in the race, his stand out, and that's, I mean. I don't love it, and I'm with you. It's like you very much could be like, I could see him winning by 3 or 4 kind of under wraps. I could also see him like top of the stretch. You're like, well, he's not gonna. He might be last,
100%.
like. So I really think it could be either or, and I realize that's not an awesome pick to give you guys, but this is one of those races that I'm going to tread very lightly.
Yeah, and like. Shotty's shouting liberal arts. She loves that horse, and I could do it. I could see it, but I also could see that horse. Like we're sitting around and we go, "Where did that horse get a call? Like where was the horse? You know what? You know what I mean? I've seen people pick Common Defense, and I think it's the same thing. It's like could win for sure, or it's like did Common Defense? Did he finish the race? Type of stuff. And I'm not like knocking anybody because. I really am with you. It's like I just don't have a clue what could happen. I mean, if a 60-1 shot wins this race, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I'll put you on the spot then because it is that race, and who is like we'll call it the makes no sense horse of the race I mean, and again, if you're going there, you could go all 12. Well, any of them that are high odds, but like you know what I mean. Like here's a horse that. Makes no sense, but you could also say, you know what? Wouldn't be surprised. I'm sitting here on Saturday night, and this horse won the Southwest.
I think Common Defense is the long shot that it looks like the McPeak type of winner, I guess is kind of what I'm trying to say. Common defense. I think there's going to be a lot of pace. I do think this horse will come running with a nice little kick. He's kind of the one that I'm like, yeah, I should have saw that coming. I can't really say that about the 2 or the 3. Those are 30-1 shots that I don't think make a lot of sense. The 9 linebacker is still a maiden, but he's been beaten by some decent horses. So I think there's worse horses you could play, honestly. I'm not saying it's going to win or anything, but I think there's worse horses you could play, I guess is what I'm saying. He got beat by Legalize. He got beat by Imperial Gun. I mean, he also got beat by El Magnifico, so that's a negative. But, I mean, I that type of horse, if it wins, I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. He's a classic McPeak horse for that situation. I don't know. Maybe maybe the 15-1 is you don't get because of that, and it's McPeak, and like he could take some money, but he got second on debut, came back, looked really good. I like him better than the other McPeak, so Mystic Dan I think might be limited a little bit on distance, but Common Defense looks like a horse that at least could be one that could, picking them off late.
Yeah.
If thing falls apart and these horses are, because you got to imagine too, like Carbone, let's say he throws it in early, and let's say Winstock throws it in early, and it's like Odo the Conqueror is hanging like he does. It's like you get to a point where like, who's going to win this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to finish the race? So don't let anybody talk you off anybody in this race.
No.
If you have an opinion, you love Magic Grant or whatever, like just go for it, because it's that kind of race. We're both on Carbone, which is a little borderline ridiculous, but let's see, because you got Brad Cox in here, you got Asmussen, a couple Asmussens, 1.5
under.
1.5 under.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty easy under, huh?
Yep.
Do you think it's 1? Do you
Under.
think we get 1 in here? Okay.
Nope.
Should have gone half.
Somebody made a comment. I forget who it was. Somebody's running on Lasix, and somebody on the Discord said, "Oh, this one's not going to get points because it's run on Lasix. Like, it's an $800,000 race, and none of them are going to make the Derby. They all should be running on Lasix. This is their greatest chance to get $800,000, in my opinion. So they all should be firing their absolute best. I think nobody makes the Derby from this. Even Carbone, it's like, I don't think he's great,
Yeah. Well, I'd say this about it. Not to shit all over it. Like, it's easy to do, but it is a $800,000 race. And like you said, a lot of these horses are not very good, but they are running an $800,000 race. And they probably are looking at it more like that than they are, let's get points for the Kentucky Derby.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at it like, this is an $800,000 race where I can easily run top 3 here with this horse, and I'm never getting a purse like this where I have a chance to get top 3 ever again. I mean, do you think the owners of Charleston are like, we shouldn't run in the Southwest? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
There's a chance, right? So, Shoddy says she does not believe the under there.
All right.
3 in here are top 20 in Derby points already, she says.
I mean, it's February 1st, so.
What do they have, Shoddy? Like 8?
Yeah, it's
6.
I mean, the top 20 Derby point getters right now is pretty worthless, honestly. So what do you want me to say? I think it's a horrible race. I can't help it. Like I can't say if I thought it was good, I'd say it was good.
All right, let's get to the next one, because I wish I had a better one for you lined up there, buddy, but I don't. Withers at Aqueduct, race number 9 on Saturday. I haven't gone through here and looked at the times, so someone can help me out with that. What times are like? Yeah, someone in the chat that's looked at this, like, what order are these? I believe
Oh, that's a good question.
I believe for some reason I remember seeing the Robert B. Lewis wasn't as late as I thought it was going to be. I
Okay.
know it's earlier on the card for that reason, but
Aqueduct's 2:55. These are Central times. 2:55 Central for the Withers.
okay.
4:45 for the Holy Bull.
Okay.
Santa Anita will be at
Earlier, I bet.
4:23. Yep.
So it's before the Holy Bull.
Yep. And then Oaklawn will be 4:42. So, geez, we're going to have.
Golly,
Okay.
let's throw them all on top of each other. Those last ones.
So we'll probably be live for the Withers. So about 2:45 through 4. 2:40, about like last week. 2:45 through 5. Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. There and you know the timing for Gulfstream's not going to help us out any at all either. So
No.
they're all going to run on top of each other. Those last three, anyways, sounds like. But should it provide some fun entertainment? So make sure you check us out live. The reactions, I thoroughly enjoyed watching you and Magic recap, watch the replays and watch them with you guys because it was pretty entertaining, especially when Warm Heart won. But anyways, all right. Withers, Aqueduct, Field of 9 shows up here. Hey, we have a race, Halterman. We all can get points. 2010, 6-4, and 2. But that's also a pretty sad reality as well when you look at this field that you're going to have one horse in here at least that's going to have 20 points when they win this race. 8-5 on Light Line for Brad Cox. 5-2 on El Grando. 5-2 for Linda Rice. Speedrunner is a 5-1. Fletcher's got a couple in here. Take it away, buddy.
It was funny. I was introducing this race this morning to my dad. I was like, all right, and now we'll go to the Withers. And, don't feel bad if you don't recognize some of these horses if you're watching out there. And I kicked to my dad. He goes, well, I'm glad you said that because I've never heard of any of these. I about died laughing. It's like, well, I'm sure people are tuning into the supposed expert here want to hear that. So good job.
I've never heard of these. Yeah.
But I mean, you know how he is. He just says what he's thinking. Yeah. I mean, look, it's. I mean, this is really bad. I mean, if you look, the Southwest is much better than this race. I'll say that right off the bat. I don't like it. We kind of know what it is. I thought about betting the number 1 speed runner for a long time, but you go back and watch that maiden special weight that he won last time out. It wasn't great. El Grande, you kind of know he's going to go to the front, and most likely he's coming back. Mission Beach, that's a horse that, Baffert just gave up on and gave it to Brittany Russell. Now, listen, Brittany Russell's done decent with horses like that in the past.
Yeah, I know.
I almost picked Mission Beach. At the end of the day, I think the number 3 Light Line is the play, though, and I'll say it. I think if he gets out of the gate well and gets a good position, he might win by about the same margin that Drumroll Please won the Jerome. Like, if you go back and watch Lightline's last race, it was really pretty damn good. Like, he broke and he had to go dead last. He broke bad. He was in that race with Carbone. And when he broke like that, I was just like, oh, that's kind of sad because I think he's decent. I don't know if he would have beat Carbone, but it's like, I wish we could have seen him run today type of thing. And he looked like he was just kind of done. And they asked that horse to run. He made a long, sustained, wide rally. He passed every one of those horses. Of course, he couldn't get to Carbone, but I don't know. To me, it's like, okay, get him out of the gate, get him a better position. If he comes with any kind of kick like that, I think he'll loop these horses. So I went Light Line, and I mean, I'm as confident as I can be in a horse that's running in this race. Like, even that being said, with like Light Line, it's still not a flashy horse. 2 races back, he was a heavy favorite. He had every shot to win, and he got beat. He's still not great, but I think he's better than this group.
I mean, I hate to back a horse that has, attempted twice in a row allowance races and hasn't won. And that's Light Line. And then you're going right into a stakes race. But, they haven't been. My concern with him is that he's kind of ran the same race all 3 times, his numbers wise, like the numbers have just kind of been, he's ran a mile 16th and a mile, and they've all, his numbers have come back. Now, like he hasn't looked bad in any of them, but he hasn't like had that performance where you're like, yeah, like he might be okay. I get why he's the play, and honestly, I I think he has a great shot to win. But it also is a little scary to play an 8-5 horse that hasn't really looked super flat. I mean, he's looked well, but you know what I mean. He's not had that even a maiden special weight, or I mean, allowance win coming into this, where you're like, whoa, that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I agree. The problem is like you start digging for, okay, what's going to happen? Like, who can I lock myself into here? You're going to be digging for a long time. There's just not anything to hang your hat on that makes you feel great, And like, for example, let's put Otello up against this field. I think you'd feel pretty good that Otello would come up here and win, right? Even like if you put like Coach Prime in this field, you feel pretty darn good. And we're saying they probably don't have much of a chance to win their respective races. You put them up here, it's like, yeah, I'd probably pick them, So it's just hard to kind of, hey, I've got this horse and I think he's pretty good. You just kind of go, okay, I've got this horse and I think he's just a little bit better than the rest of them. And to be honest, that's what Drumroll Please was in the Jerome. And to be honest, he probably would have been this. It would have been the same race in the Withers if he would have stayed healthy and ran here.
I'm gonna go with. So obviously, I do think the Light Line is probably a deserving favorite here. I don't have a ton of confidence in him. Especially, I'm gonna go with the one Speedrunner. That's who I was kind of debating between the one and Light Line. But given that we have that 1.8 race under his belt, it was granted a maiden special weight, but he got that 1.8 race. It was at the track, and the horse kind of showed a little bit of a new dimension that day, going from the nearly the lead and taking it. So I like the fact that you're getting 5-1 versus 8-5 with a horse that numbers like it's a horse that at least is. We talked a lot about it earlier, right? The Pletcher progression, that Pletcher gets, he finds this horse or finds this race, and how do we make this horse get to this race and win now? So
very fair.
Him to win this would be absolutely not shocking.
Nope, you're right.
Having said that, I don't think he's like anything. I'm not sitting here saying I believe that this is like one of many that, I mean, I guess he could probably get into the Derby because it's Pletcher. I don't love him regardless, but I do think he could win this race, and I'd like to take him at. He probably won't be 5-1, maybe 4-1 or something, but 3-1, 4-1 over 8-5, 7-5, 9-5, whatever you get.
Well, I think it's fair, and I think your angle is Pletcher went over the track, getting better. Makes sense.
All right, and I mean, shit. I it's under. I mean, is it? I guess I'll go 0.5 again.
Under.
So sad.
Well, I mean, you look realistically. Get the Gotham next. That's at a mile. I mean, usually they get some decent sprint type horses to come in for that, and then you got the Woodward, and that's usually when like the big horses come in. So, I mean, this is probably it. Like this is their best chance. The horses in this race.
No, I mean, yeah, because I mean, you're certainly not. I mean, if you're Brad or Pletcher, where are you taking Speedrunner and Lightline? From here,
you're not taking them anywhere.
I mean, you might have a few places, but probably not race related.
No.
Yeah, not race related. So, yeah. So you're like, yeah, well, here we are. So yeah, that's
yeah.
So we have 4 races we talked about on today's show, and I think you went under like 0.5 on both of the other ones, the hard ones, the Southwest and this one.
It is extremely, I'm not going to say it's likely, but it's extremely possible that out of all the preps we have, all 4 of them, one horse runs in the Derby.
Yeah, that is
Now the caveat obviously is okay. At Santa Anita, there would be more than
Yeah, but
we're
there's
saying
not.
zero because they literally can't. But
But they can't. So no, I mean it's fair, and it's pretty. I mean, if you I don't let's just say for argument's sake, there's 40 horses that we talked about. If you combine the 4 races, you're saying one of them can win or can get in the Derby.
yeah.
Who also might be the favorite of the race. So
Well, yeah, that's the other thing about it
There's
too. I
that.
mean, if he wins this one and wins the next prep, he will be the favorite, no matter
Right.
what he really looks like. So,
Have
but
they
yeah,
said what they're doing? Are they doing Forte route with him?
I don't really know because Forte was Fountain of Youth Florida Derby,
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, would they really run in all 3?
I don't think they'd run in all 3. I bet he skips the Fountain of Youth, goes to the Florida Derby.
Yeah, maybe he'll get one of his other 42 horses in the Fountain of Youth,
Right.
and then save him for that, and then ship out the other ones.
Yeah.
For those last preps. But all right, there you go. Halterman's taking the 3 light line. I've got the 1 speed runner in the Withers. We made it.
So there's 2 things I got to talk about as we end the show here. Yep, 2 things.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Check us out at racenews.com for our free picks and our premium selections on our products page. Of course, go get the betting Bible available for purchase right now at racingdudes.com. It's on that page. Just click that Get Racing Dudes premium button, and you can see the betting Bible right there on the top of the screen. Go ahead and purchase it. It will be available. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, it'll definitely be available by Friday morning. So make sure you go download that thing. We typically update it. Given you got to keep in mind, especially for this one, we had 4 tracks to deal with. Essentially, we had 4 entries to wait for. The variety, and then we're not going to put out a product that we don't know the odds yet for. Who we're going to pick, and so we're waiting for the odds. So people are like, hey, where's it at? Well, we're waiting. We're waiting what we can get done. So keep that in mind. That's why it waits till typically Thursday night, Friday mornings for release. We also do an update Saturday mornings. Every time we do a Bible, there's an update Saturday morning. So make sure you get the latest version because obviously there's scratches and those things. And when you're dealing with 4 different tracks, like we will be this weekend, there will be scratches and there will be changes. So just want to make sure you know that when you go and buy the Bible that we do have an up-to-date product available as well once the scratches come out on Saturday. We're on Twitter at Racing_Dudes, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So go hit us up on all the spots. You can listen to Blinkers Off right here on YouTube. If you're watching us, we appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. But also all the places you listen to podcasts, we are there. The Magic Mike Show as well, who did the Gulfstream Park Pick 5 preview, of course. So if you want all the stakes action there at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, make sure you go hit them up as well. All right, Halterman, you said you had 2 things on your list. I got off my chest earlier in the show what I wanted to talk about. What do you got?
So number 1, if you bet sports, you have to start buying from Papa Dude. I don't think there's ever been a handicapper doing what he's doing right now. It's absolutely incredible. He just won 14 straight bets. Okay. He finally lost one last night. His first loss out of 14. Jeez. So today he goes, I'm confident, but I know how this is going to go. He just completed a 4-0 night. Just right when Jared got done talking, his final pick came in. So he's now 18-1 in his last 20. And it's incredible what this guy is doing every night. He's made a profit like for 3 straight weeks every night. I just put on the Discord because people are really noticing and starting to buy it. I think right now he's the best sports handicapper in the country. I don't think anybody can say that. I don't think anybody can match what he's doing. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
Wow. I mean, I look at this. And keep in mind, like he's betting, just for comparison, like he's at 15. He's got a $15,000 profit, which is sneaking up to mine.
Yeah.
And I play like mine's like I have like 6-7 bets in a row that I lose, and then I'll hit one for $800 or whatever. Because mine are a lot more. His are he's betting lines and not getting a ton of here and there. So it takes the point is it's taking look at this right here. Here, let me pull it up.
Well, for example, his overall record now after these 4 wins tonight, we started this in June, or no, it was July. 443 and 292.
That's insane.
That's ridiculous.
That is insane. Let's look at this. I want to look at
and guys, every single day he puts out plays. He never skips, not one day.
If you're looking for action steady, that's your guy.
It's insane. I mean, I've never, and again, he's not like, oh, this is my dear old dad, I'm going to brag on him. Like, we give each other shit constantly. If he was doing terrible, I would make fun of him constantly and him to me. But it's insane. Like all these, all these experts out here that have these sports, they're not even close to this guy. Nobody is. You can go to VSiN, go to Samich, piss on all those guys. Their record isn't even close to this. It's insane. He should be on the biggest sports site there is. And unfortunately, he's on a racing site doing sports picks, but it's insane. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up because
just go to racingdudes.com. You'll see a tab that says best bets. Look for Mike Halterman. That's your guy.
He's now, like I said, he's starting to sell him. People are like, I don't care. He's on a racing site. He wins. So I wanted to mention that. Okay. The other thing I want to mention. So my email, my phone bombarded. I believe that was yesterday, with texts and emails from Missouri residents, Twin Spires shut off residents that live in Missouri. So I immediately was like, well, it wasn't legal in Missouri anyway. I don't know what these people are talking about. Twin Spires allowed Missouri residents to sign up. They were the only company to do it. So, and one guy was like, I've been on it since like 2004. So they've been forever. They've allowed this to happen. So anyway, they cut all Missouri residents off. And again, I was like, it's illegal anyway. I don't know how they got away with it. Guess what? So I researched the Missouri laws. Okay. Parimutuel wagering in Missouri is legal. However,
what?
It is. However, you have to be at a track or an OTB facility within the state to make the wagers. Now, you might think, well, okay, there are no OTB or tracks in the state of Missouri.
They're like, psych.
So I researched it more. It's like, okay, is this like from when we had like dog tracks back in the early 1900s and they didn't change it? No. In 1984, they passed the legislation to have parimutuel wagering in this state legalized. And from 1984 to now, nobody has been able to open an OTB, and nobody's been able to open a track or even try to open either one of those. Why it passed and why somebody cared enough for it to pass, I don't know. But figure that one out for me. And how, one last thing, how Twin Spires got away with it for so long.
Well, yeah, wouldn't they be facing some sort of legality?
Wouldn't you think?
For accepting, because like I started thinking about it, we have people that we know, like from where we live, like from where we're from, that would like, oh yeah, I've heard them mention before, like I was on my Twin Spires account. And I'm like, how, like how are you on a Twin Spires? I get how some of us do it, right? Wink, wink. But I mean, there's ways, or
mm-hmm.
But for people just to be like, but I'm like, oh, so they just signed up and funded and
Mhm.
the whole 9 yards. So I'm sure there are some major, and did you figure yours out, or are you still not able to watch video?
So my phone is out of commission, and I figured out why. If your location services are turned on your phone, it's gonna knock you off. So if you turn those off, you can still log in. But yeah,
Yeah, we just have friends,
well,
Rob. I mean,
well, so there's I mean, let's to be honest, the workaround is you have a friend, he or she lives in a state where it's legal. They sign up for an account and you operate the account, right? I mean, that's
which up until, I haven't checked in the last hour, but I was able to access both Wi-Fi, non-Wi-Fi with on my account, and people I know have always been able to fund that account, have been able to operate that account, have make bets, whether they're in Missouri or Arkansas or Florida or Kentucky, operate that account. And so it was simple. It always has been for people that we know that it's been as simple as, well, as long as you have the origin of the account in a state that it's okay. Then now I don't know. Now I haven't really, I haven't tried to fund it or whatever, but so that could be an issue.
I think it's still working for those people if they're on a computer. But anyway,
Good.
But to the point though, I wonder because sports betting is getting shut down on this. I mean, just listen, I really need to move. The state is a joke. But anyway, it'll pass the House, can't pass the Senate. So I'm wondering if with the sports bill and pushing,
Yeah.
if they've noticed, hey, Twin Spires is letting this horse racing thing go on and they've outlawed it, because what I'm guessing is Twin Spires may have said, well, it says parimutuel betting is legal. We'll make it open to Missouri residents. It's racing. It's a niche sport. The lawmakers in Missouri may not have had a clue it was happening for all those years. It wouldn't surprise me.
Wait, they still race horses?
Right.
Oh,
Like,
we better shut that shit down.
my speculation is because they're fighting so much about the sports thing, the horses got noticed. That's my guess. But because look, they've operated. The one guy who, by the way, we lost business because of this, because one of our good customers lives in St. Louis and he can't get into his account. And so he's like, well, I'm going to cancel my subscriptions and stuff because I can't get into my account and I can't bet. So when I figured out, I'll come back, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, he literally said he's been doing that. He's been a customer of theirs for over 20 years. So it's been happening for over 20 years now.
I don't know what it's 2024 and we're sitting here talking about where you have to be positioned basically in a state or location in order to make a bet on your phone. I mean, it's just nuts. Like, I don't know how this is a thing, but people wonder why horse racing is what it is. It's like, and I don't mean, and horse racing is a smaller part of the sports betting realm as far as how, you and I still can't legally bet sports here in Missouri. It's just like, wow. How many people do you know in whatever business or industries that are like, I want to give you my money, IRS. I want to give it to you. Just let me give it to you by letting me make bets. And it's I don't know. It's wild.
I was doing research on this and I saw Missouri is one of 12 states left that you cannot bet on sports.
Nice.
And, the other two that really surprised me, Texas, well, it doesn't surprise me, but because their politics down there are crazy in Texas. Texas will not allow it. And then, of course, California is the big one. You'd think that they could get that passed, but they just won't do it. So, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy. So we're 1 of 12 left, and the way I researched this for a while because of the horse thing. Very interesting, and I don't think this sports thing's close, Jared. I really don't. I don't think it's close.
So what do you think? I mean, are you like, why is it not close?
I don't really know. Politicians fighting over it, basically. It looks to me like the casinos don't want it, and they've paid off the politicians. So that's
I
the
guess
speculation.
I guess what we need to do, because I mean, most people where we're from assume when you tell them what we do, think we are bookies anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So we might as well just lean into it. It's like, hey, you know what? You want to make a bet? I'm your guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, we should.
I mean, shit. It's. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like, it kind of goes along the lines of, and not to get into a whole thing, but like with like the legalization of weed or whatever it is. It's like, do you think that we're like, they don't find a way to get it? Like, it's just not legal. But we're still figuring it out. It's like, it's like betting on horses. We'll still find a way to do it.
Every single person, except for the one guy who was just distraught, and he will figure out a way. But all the other people, especially my friends, and we got an email from a guy that lives in Springfield.
Yep.
It wasn't, well, I guess I won't bet anymore. It's like, guys, how do I do it now?
And what are the workarounds?
Like Pedlo, Bovada. It's pretty easy, and you're giving money to offshore companies. And all of us would much, much, much rather get on like MGM app on our phone, like when I was in Nevada and I bet all over the place while I was on my phone, instead of going to Bovada. Like, nobody wants to really use those sites, but 12 states have to use them. So,
yeah, exactly. It's like, let's make it easy. Let's be able to put money in, and that's the thing with any of those offshore type ones. It's like, you can bet them, but it's a whole other game to get it back, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's got to be some sort of rule, right, where we don't get in trouble now. But there, years and years ago, at this time, was the biggest bet of our whole lives.
Yep.
Halter and I put a bet on American Pharoah to win the Kentucky Derby. We combined our money, and this was 2015. Racing Dudes I had just gone full time. Halterman was not full time yet. We were making almost $0.
Mm-hmm.
So we but we knew this horse was going to win, and we put it all, and then we used an offshore account. And I don't even remember. Was it even the Breeders' Cup before we got our money? It was a long time before we actually got our money sent to us, and then it was like sent to somebody else, and then it was a whole pain in the ass. But we did actually get it. But the point of that is, how nice would it be just be like, I logged on, I made my bet. Hey, guess what? I want to cash out. I got my check in the mail, whatever. Like, that'd be awesome.
Be amazing. Well, listen, when I was in Las Vegas, I signed up for the MGM app. You can only use it when you're in Nevada. But you know what I was able to do for the first time in my adult life on sports, at least? I could bet on an app. And when I was done betting, you know what I did? Transferred the money to my bank account, and it was in my bank account in a second.
Isn't that nice?
It was so great.
Yeah. I mean, Peter, you're like, that's a stat. Like,
it's awful.
It takes you 2 seconds to get your money in, right? That is super simple. But getting it out, you almost have to go into the offshores with the attitude of like, hey, at least and this is so bad, but it's like, at least I'm getting my fix. At least I can bet it. At least I can bet on these, and I have that account where it shows I have money or whatever. But past that, you're not operating it as in a way of like, I can transfer this over and buy something with that money. It's like, no, that money's got that money just into the meta.
Well, and I've gotten like prepaid cards instead of cash from those places before. Like they pay out in some weird ways, so it's a mess. but it's a mess. I mean, it's a total mess. And Ramrod, I think you're talking about Bovada's like sport or horses are limited, like their horse book, and it is. It's very limited. But sports, it's fine. Horses, it's not really built for horses. But I don't know. I don't know what else to do. So
I remember like way back in the day. I mean, I'm talking like college days that like I would have to it was like bet US or no, it was something else. Maybe it was something. Was that it?
Yep.
And it was like I was betting all the time, but it was so like sketchy to make to even at the end. It was like, well, you got to go and get get like Visa cards at Walmart,
the prepaid cards.
Yeah, and then fund them or whatever, and then it was so sketchy. But you know, as addicts and degens, we find a way. We always find a way, Alterman.
Yep. And that's just it. People will find a way, and it won't be regulated, and they put themselves in jeopardy, and they cost the state literally billions of dollars. So good job. I mean, but whatever.
But hey, at least we're doing the right thing by not letting them bet, because what could transpire from betting? You know, who knows?
Could be endless possibilities.
Terrible things. All right, guys. Let's all right. What time before we hop off here? Do you think get 3 o'clock, 2:30, let's say 2:30 to 5?
2:30 or 2:45 to 5. It'll be almost exactly like last week. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I will be available. So I will be on. Halterman will be on Magic, I assume. So we'll be on, and we'll be talking about all the preps that are going on. We'll watch them with you guys live, and we'll react to them and comment on them, and we'll see how many superstars we have at the end of the day, Alterman.
Okay. Sounds great.
One, maybe.
Still.
Maybe. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, everybody, for all the comments and questions as we went through. And, we'll see you guys Saturday. Good luck this weekend and all the preps.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at @racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.